Hi everyone, welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. And today we've got with us Dawn Mahoney. Hey Dawn,
Hello,
how are you?
hello. I'm here in the flesh.
There you are. In not
In
frozen for change, Minnesota, right? No, you're in Wisconsin. I'm
I'm
sorry.
in Wisconsin. I'm home, so I'm in rainy Wisconsin, where it's kind of rainy in Minnesota too, where Chris is. So
Sounds
we've
good.
got that.
And we've got with us Chris Allen today from Allen Interactions and Zebra Zapps. Hey Chris, how are you?
Good morning. Fine. If we weren't talking about the weather, why, I'd be really happy.
You'd be really happy, right? You know,
It's true.
and everybody says, we are in sunny Southern California. However, it is dry as a bone out here. So, we want rain. It's really dry. We've got winds blowing like crazy, 95 degrees today. Yeah, it sounds fun, but it isn't.
95 degrees.
95,
Mm-mm.
yep.
I think that's 54 degrees warmer than it is here. So
that's-
just to give you a little basis.
That's true. And here is our intro. Okay, that was a short intro. Fumble fingers here. Anyway. Hey, Chris, tell us what is new in the world of Zebra Zapps.
Well, it's been an exciting start to 2014. We've got a lot of big projects going on here at Allen Interactions for our custom services division, and they're busy building away in Zebra Zapps. And for the first couple months, we spent a lot of time and energy tuning performance and making sure that both the experience for the author creating new course material as well as the student is just as blistering fast as it can be. And that's been a fun process to figure out where we can tune and what additional changes we can continue to make. And I'm really happy to say that the performance is just absolutely outstanding. And I've got a punch list of additional things that we can do to it yet. So
Yeah, it is actually a lot faster. When I go on it, half the time I don't really realize I'm online. It's quick now.
Yeah,
it was always pretty
It's
quick.
very quick.
It was always pretty quick, but you're right. It's a lot more seamless now. It just seems to just zip along.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I feel like we're we've put the hot rod in the garage and we've jacked it up and we've started putting parts on it, and you're never quite sure, are you going to get that performance that you want, or is it just going to make a really big noise? And the first time driving it around the block, it was super fast, and we hardly scratched the surface with what we can do. So that's been a real big pet project of mine to make sure that performance is just beyond what you expect.
That sounds
And
great.
then the second component, which at ASTD ICE, which we're going to be showing off for real, is the ability for authors to not only publish for the desktop, publish for an LMS, but also publish one-off real custom apps of their own with their own logo to load on both Android and iOS devices. So over this last month, I've been going through all the documentation for how to get personal apps submitted to the iTunes Store and to the Android Marketplace.
And it's not easy, is it? They make it difficult too. It's not the easiest. I know we've done an iPhone. It's a pain. You've got to go through a lot of paperwork to get that thing up there.
You do, and so part of that's been a big learning experience for me is what all the documentation and steps are. But I'm pretty happy to say that with this current project, our demo for ICE is a real serious learning game, and it's got we're close to 6 or 7 levels into it. I suppose a person could sit down and play it and probably take them maybe an hour, a little bit more. They might reach the final level, they might not. And we're able to make a full round trip both to the iTunes Store and to the Android Marketplace. So hopefully we'll have that on both Android and iOS devices at the booth, and we'll be playing and showing off our first serious learning game. And I suppose it'll be about a week or two before both of those will be in the shops for everybody to download to see what the full experience is like. But what's pretty cool is you can go from concept and design, really, what, week and a half ago, I think we started on the project. Full art through full game design to build something that's real and pretty fun, and be able to publish that and put that out.
Now, on the Android and the iPhone, are those apps actually standalone, or do they connect back to a server?
They're standalone, which is
great.
also something that I've been really quite passionate about, and talked to lots of organizations about how they currently deploy mobile apps or mobile learning in that case, and a lot of them require constant internet connection, but their field folks don't have constant internet connection, and so they'd really love to be able to put some of this stuff and store it on the device. And really that's what we've got. So you get a full standalone app, and you flip through and it's just like finding the Facebook app or iTunes or Angry Birds. You click it straight from the home screen. It looks like any other app. And it launches in place. But we're giving authors the ability to have all the content that they've created sit locally on the device. So if for some reason why you jump on an airplane and you no longer have internet connectivity, you can still access and play all the stuff that you've built.
That's great. Any angry zebras coming out, or?
I'll put that in the hopper.
That's
as a demo app that we definitely need to build.
It'll take over the Candy Crush.
Yeah.
The new and exciting. I haven't delved into that, but.
Well, and we've got a QA team here that builds a lot of apps, and they test out all of our new features. And they're all bright guys. We pulled a number of them from a local college here in town that has a pretty fantastic game designer track at the college, both for learning how to program and design, all that sort of stuff. And those guys go through and they test all the new features that come out. So they're constantly building things, and every now and then you go and you look at, well, what's the biggest test app that you've created? And they've either built some just absolutely hilarious game or some Rube Goldberg contraption where you push one button and you wait 20 minutes, but you get just an awesome show. So I expect that when we release publishing, to the masses, a lot of them are going to have fun submitting some pretty interesting things to both shops.
They draw me in with their emails every once in a while to go look at what's new in the apps.
Yeah, absolutely.
That marketing works well that way. We have people watching you and listening, and good commentary saying that they're appreciating what's coming. So are you going to show us more, or just entice us with what might be?
Sure. Well, we have been building a lot of things, and I've got stuff that we're planning on showing at ICE. And this morning in our little test here before the show started, I was trying to figure out, well, what's the best way for me to show? I've got several different devices here right below me, and I'll try to get this up well enough so that there's not too much glare. So here's an iPad mini, and just so of course, I'm thumbing through, and here are all the different app icons. And we put together one for the Serious e-learning manifesto, so people could have that just right on their device and refer back to the principles. I was thinking at least it would be a fun little app to have as a conversation point with the team. So of course, all of this came straight from Zebra. We got a IPA file, which is essentially if you're just developing and messing around with iTunes on your own devices, why you can drag and drop this file straight from Zebra into iTunes and load it right onto your personal device for testing. But one click and the thing opens, and of course I've got navigation over here, and it's all got all the touch things that you'd expect, so I can click and see what all the navigation happens to be, and upload audio and video and that sort of stuff. That may not be loud enough, but of course
I can hear something. I can't hear what specifically.
Yeah. Let's see if I can figure out. I've got all these devices for testing. Can't ever figure out which button does what.
Time an author spends and wasting.
I can hear.
In the process.
And of course, you can add buttons and stuff to jump out to YouTube and all that other sort of stuff, just like any other app. So this will open up a browser window now, and you'll find the YouTube page for the manifesto.
Yeah, nice.
So that was something, quite honestly, put together in a day, and was able to publish and make the round trip. So iOS devices, certainly got that down. I've got an Android here. They've all got the on button in some odd different place.
That they do.
Here's one of our latest Android devices, and this is the game that we're going to be showing off at the booth. And maybe if I stand here, it'd be a little bit better.
Is that that Samsung 10-inch one?
Boy.
It looks like
This
it.
is a Nexus.
Oh, the Nexus. Oh, that's a 10-inch Nexus, though, right?
Yeah, it's a bigger.
Nice.
It's a bigger Nexus.
Yep, that is Samsung, actually.
It is. It's pretty comfortable in the hand. I like, as we were talking about devices, I like it's got a rubbery, grippery surface on the back, and that's pretty comfortable to hold.
Yeah.
So this game, I'm really quite proud of, and we'll be showing this off at the booth. This is based off of a learning project that Allen Interactions did actually a while ago, teaching somebody how to be a short order chef. Essentially what you're learning to do is you're learning to prepare different foods in order. So here it is literally teaching you how to cook an egg. And as you go through each different step, it's showing you, how long it's going to take, where items need to be, what surfaces they need to be cooked on, what to look for as far as preparation quality, making sure it's done hot. We've got kind of some fun distractors. We tried to really amp up the realism about, if you're learning to be a chef and you're learning to cook and you're in this situation, you got to be able to prepare food pretty quickly. If you're constantly looking at, a recipe guide or some sort of reference, why you ought to get penalized, because that in real life is going to slow you down. So we do have the cook times, and you're certainly welcome to take a look at that. But why the moment that you do, you're asked to now go through the task of cleaning up the kitchen, and that slows you down. And of course, if you have anything on the burners or the grill, why it's going to burn or get cold or all that sort of stuff. So this has been just a really fun project to work on, and I honestly can't wait to show people, because it's been pretty addicting to play in as we've been testing around. It's taken a number of us who know the rules of the game more than 4 tries to beat it.
Now,
even those of us who programmed it and put it together find it pretty challenging. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. Now I saw Steve Lee do that demo actually on a desktop. So that is the same demo now on a device.
On a device, and that's another thing that we're super excited about. Is really the only difference now is thinking about screen real estate and how you present information. A lot of people have talked about responsive design, all that sort of stuff. As I've gone through the process, I think there's a lot more serious thought that needs to go into it, whether or not you use pictures as your main communicator versus text. How much real estate your thumbs take up over, for navigating and clicking on stuff. And you really can go one-click publishing for both desktop and for the pad, and for the bigger tablets, why that works just great. But for a phone or something smaller, you got to think pretty hard about how you want the design interface to look and feel.
Who knew we'd be designing for the size of our thumbs? Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And
it's also fun to watch how other people hold different devices, and what their first inkling is to do with it. I think I've got 6 different pads and tablets here just hiding around the desk, and all of them have different apps loaded on them. And depending on which one gets handed out to who and what their previous experience is with phones and tablets and all that sort of stuff, they'll hold it in a different way. And so as someone who really wants a nice looking design, that's something that you do have to take into consideration. But I think it's a fun challenge that just about any instructional designer's going to really want to clamor onto. And it's fun to make this round trip. Just having it on a different device for some reason is just kind of magical.
And that game or that development is now Android and iOS phone capable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they both get the regular file extension. So for iOS, you end up with a IPA file, which is the same thing that you upload to iTunes to try to get something in the shops. Now, I expect most people are going to transfer their learning apps either over the air or through some mobile device management system that organizations have for bring your own device to work type situations. But you can make the full trip in either case. You can send it over the air, you can send somebody a link. Android's maybe well, not a little bit. I'd say Android's a lot easier to sharing kind of private apps between either a development community as you're testing or in an organization. But both have the ability for you to create a native app that sits on both of these devices and be delivered without going through the marketplaces.
Do people that have, let's just say, salespeople in the field, because I have a lot of friends in that world, do they develop two similar products, one for phone and one for tablet, just because you lose some functionality in one or the other, or are you finding now it's pretty seamless?
Well, it depends on the phone. I mean, some of these tablets that I've got, quite honestly, they're huge, but they also double as a phone. And if you know your screen's pretty big and the interactivity that you're building is pretty simplistic, you can probably get away with the same design, so it doesn't much matter. But what I've found in my own development is that I'm far more proud of the work if I spend the time to make the interface and navigation match to a target device. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that you need to do that. I'm just saying it certainly is a bit more rewarding, even though the output is manageable and you can play it on both.
The learner experience would be, I think, enhanced if you take that additional time. How much more time do you think it takes? It's not double, certainly, right? There'd be some code.
I don't think so. It's pretty easy in our product to be able to swap graphics on the fly. We call it object replacement. So you can swap the size and the look and feel, but maintain the logic behind it. And that allows you then, if you wanted to have really the same interactivity on one device or another, it makes it really fast to go through and rip a smaller version for an iPhone or for an Android phone. The same thing that you built for a tablet. So, it just depends on how deep you went with the interactivity and how much you want to change the look and feel as you switch back and forth. But there's no reason why the same project can't be delivered for both. And you can, our game we're doing a little bit different size screen placement of buttons and stuff for Android versus iOS. And I don't expect it to take much more than a day or two to have the same project on slightly different screen sizes.
I think about sales because they rarely want to attend any sort of and complete any sort of training, and they need to probably learn a new system or something. They're going to want it easy and seamless and transferable by device. So I wondered if people had done that. It sounds like they have, that you have.
Yeah, and I would expect that we get kind of some really interesting blended performance support apps built with this, not just content, but especially in the sales world. You certainly could build your own custom app that has your product demos or information about it, as well as a little bit of interactivity built in that you can share or you can hold with the potential customer on site, flip back and forth, and it that can be a shared experience, and that's a lot of fun, especially if it's designed right. You get closer human interaction even though you're both poring over an electronic device.
Right, exactly. Laura in the chat room is asking if it's possible for you to show or demo the difference or the similarity or the sameness between a phone and a tablet. And do you have something preloaded that you could show?
I don't have anything preloaded on a phone, but I'll certainly will at our booth. And the next couple of days, really my task is to figure out how to film this right so that we can put together some demo videos so people can see the difference. I've done a couple of tests with my own personal phone, but I haven't put any super rich interactivity that I've got on a tablet, both on a phone, to compare how those look back and forth with the exact same size.
I know one question that comes up, I hear this several times, is can Zebra Zapps import PowerPoints or existing PowerPoints?
Yeah, that's been on our wish list for a while. One of the questions I've had is what in particular is important about the import? Is it just the images that you want? Is it the images with editable text that you'd like? And what is it about pulling a deck from one to the other that's super important to folks? We've found that there are some tools that you can use that will rip your slides and essentially give you a set of images that you can import. But we haven't spent the time to do a direct import from a PowerPoint deck.
Yeah, I don't see that as a huge need. I know people ask that because they're used to that either with other products or they're trying to leverage content and do the least amount to get it into a web-based training format.
Yeah, absolutely.
But images always get soft and text doesn't always translate. Maybe I haven't tried it with yours. I'd have to copy and paste in, right?
Yeah, and we do have a lot of features for copy and paste. So you can have a Word document up and your web browser with your your editor doing web authoring, and you can copy and paste from one to the other, and that works really slick.
That wouldn't be that bad because I know a lot of the products. I know this one for a fact. If you're coming from a Mac-based PowerPoint and you bring it into a Windows machine or your host.
Yeah.
The geometries are different, and it screws up a lot of stuff. I've seen that just in too many cases. I always tell people in here, just copy paste. You're just going to be better off.
Yeah, copy paste.
It's just cleaner. It's safer. I think it really comes down to safer.
Leva is asking, are you testing on any devices using Viewport? I don't know what Viewport is.
I'm not familiar with Viewport.
Okay, I don't either.
No, she's talking about a Viewport. It's the old connectors. It's a display port, I think. The display port connector on some laptops in the old days.
Oh.
I don't think that makes a difference because that's just like HDMI actually with it's just an older
devices.
I think that's what she's talking about.
She'll tell us.
Yeah.
It isn't there yet, but she'll tell us. Maybe the video port, is that? I
think it's instead of an HDMI output, it's a DisplayPort output. And I think DisplayPort also carries sound with it. It's just not used heavily anymore.
Oh, is she talking about, recording student audio or video?
Well, what she says is Viewport shows you all the browser resolutions for all possible devices.
Oh, got it. So a tool to help you do development. That's really on my end to certainly put together some sort of interface for new users to figure out what size their project should be so that it looks good on the most devices, as well as give authors some predefined drop-downs for target devices that they know everybody in the organization has.
I attended a conference last fall where a guy, I'll have to look that up, I can share it with you, I can share it with the group once I find it, but he, on his website, he has that already made and you can just have it.
Yeah, and that was something that I discovered, a couple days ago when I uploaded my first full developer-signed Android package to the Android marketplace. Mm-hmm. It'll accept any Android file, and of course there's just about every different screen size that you could ever think of for an Android device, and it goes up and Google thinks about it for a minute, and then it comes back with a screen that says the app that you just loaded works on X number of different devices. And I thought, I wonder how many that's going to be. And it's spinning and spinning and spinning. And all of a sudden, the number was 5,112.
Wow.
Yay!
Yeah. I didn't realize that there were more than like 10. So I suppose that's just about every different phone variant that was ever created and all that sort of stuff. So there's there's certainly more to come from our end to make that easier. But surprises in this industry the mobile industry are pretty frequent. So it'll be a fun task, I think, to get out in front of, see how many different devices and help people target and choose a good screen size and help them really map out an interface that's good for people who like to use their thumbs or people who like to point and press right on top of the device.
Now,
So
She just posted a URL. It's HTTP and no www, viewportsizes.com.
cool.
So, and then I did find the guy. It's Troy Kolar, and his website is tlccreative.com. You might check those out.
Yeah, absolutely. Those sound like great resources.
Now, if people want to look at courses already built, or at least things built, whether they're apps or courses in Zebra Zapps, where would they go for that?
Sure. So we do have what we have our own shops, and they're public-facing apps that people have decided to share. You can also go on to zebrazapps.info, which is our marketing site where we curate kind of all the latest examples that we've put together for webinars and for client demos and that sort of stuff. So you can see those apps. And we'll, with the release of Android and iOS publishing, over the next month, we'll curate a spot just for things that are in both public shops. So if you want to pull up your own Android device or navigate over to iTunes, you can flip and find the latest that have been published. But you need to give us about a week or two to get a couple of extra things here that we're bringing to ICE fully submitted and accepted.
Sounds great. Now, we are almost at the end of our time. Anything in particular you want to talk about, or we've got about 5 more minutes?
Well, development is ongoing with our product all the time, and so of course, this is the mobile stuff that I'm talking about today. That's the big release and the big stuff that we're going to be talking about at ICE. And going forward, certainly the focus is going to shift a little bit to some team-oriented stuff and collaborative authoring. And I am certainly accepting lots of ideas from folks. We've got a pretty extensive roadmap that takes us through the end of the year as far as author collaboration goes. But I've really been digging hard to find teams of 5, 10, 15 developers who are working in conjunction to figure out what tools their organization currently uses for production workflow, as well as the things that bug them about the tools that they're currently using. On our services side of the business, outside of Zebra Zapps, we use lots of different tools, and that group has some pretty sophisticated processes that they've put in place for workflow. And when they're using certain tools, or they're hand coding in HTML5 or Flash, when they've got a lot of professional grade tools for production. So multiple people can be working on the same project at the same time. When we look at some other stuff within our industry, it becomes pretty hard for more than one person really to be working on the same project at the same time, let alone have access to the same files at the same time. So that's one thing that I'd love to hear from the rest of the community is what things do you wish you had so that you could work with the neighbor to your left or to your right at the office, and what's kind of holding you up from being a better team. So that's the big focus that we've got after
Maybe I
ICE.
can put you in touch with some folks at my organization.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
It's-
I'll catch you offline.
It's really fun to hear those stories, because I have the full pleasure of being able to tinker and work with the latest technology that's out there. But really, for the most part, I'm a one-man team when it comes to looking up some of this stuff. So it's fun to dig in and see what a collective group of 8, 10 people are doing together, and what's holding them up from being a more effective work team when it comes to delivering training.
Perfect. So do you want it designers, or do you want OD or a blend, or?
I'm looking for a a blend of opinions and wants. That we've got a good long wish list. We're certainly uniquely positioned in that you access us through the web, so that makes it really easy to build some of this collaborative stuff in. And I want to make sure that my wish list matches the wish lists of development teams everywhere out there.
Now, can people right now use Zebra Zapps in a multi-user fashion?
Yeah, we do have some stuff that allows for some pretty serious collaboration. One of the finer points of our tool is the ability to create reusable logic structures. We call them gadgets. Mm-hmm. And so you can have multiple people working on different gadgets, drop them into different points in a project, and if you make an update or the client comes back and say, we wish this interaction worked in a slightly different fashion, one person can go through and work on the logic changes without having to disrupt the implementation of content. And when the logic changes are finished, you can simply just do essentially a push update or a replacement. The content stays in place, but the logic changes. And some of the first things that we've got on deck and in my wish list are making some of those features really obvious and a little bit easier for teams to utilize without having to think so hard. But that's something that we use internally here at Allen Interactions a lot. And we've got a couple of big projects where hundreds of lessons are being built that reutilize some pretty similar components. Should the client come back and say we want some drastic changes, really only one person needs to go in and do that work, while the rest of them can continue on in the production of content.
That's great. Now, when you have gadgets, for example, if you change a gadget, does that ripple through automatically to all the other courses that had them?
There are some fine-tuned features that allow you to either accept the change or not accept the change and replace in some places, but not all places. Okay. And that's the first thing that I'm tackling, is making that interface really obvious, because it's an extraordinarily powerful feature that we've got, but I don't think it's as obvious as we could have made it. And just kind of making it obvious, I think all of a sudden will open up a lot of eyes about how collaborative the product already is.
Sounds great. Well, we are at the end of our time. You will be at ICE next week?
Yeah, absolutely. Back in my own stomping grounds in DC, and I'm excited to be back, and hopefully the weather's going to be nice.
Yeah, it's been a little volatile in the east, so I'm hoping that'll calm down when we get there.
Yeah, fingers crossed for sure.
Yeah. Sounds great. I'll try to swing by, but boy, that's a tough deal. You're a rock star when you're there.
Well, the last few trips, it's been a lot of fun. People have certainly piled into our booth. Last year in Dallas, we tried a new booth design that it's essentially disposable, but it looks like finished interior walls like you'd find in a house, and it allowed us to create a room effect inside our booth. We're redoing that again this year with some additional improvements, so we should be able to hold as many, if not more, people as last year, and that'll be fun.
That's a lot. And it was freestanding, so you could kind of enter from all sides, so that was nice. A lot of traffic flow.
Enter from multiple sides, be able to have some, one of the big challenges in a booth in a big expo hall like at ICE's every year is to be able to have a conversation where I don't feel like I'm yelling at other people or have to stand so close that someone might hug me.
But they have those cool giveaways, so they're always busy there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this layout design certainly gives us a room type feel where even though it's a big space and it's loud, you can still have a nice conversation at a nice distance and be able to share and look over material.
Well, again, Chris, a pleasure having you on, and we look forward to having you on again, showing us more features and all the new stuff coming out with the product. And for those interested, they can go to www.zebrazapps.com. We've been showing that a couple of times throughout the show, and I think there's free trial, so nothing ventured, nothing lost, and it's not expensive, so have fun with it. And you have, by the way, before we go, just to explain, you have different levels of subscription too.
We do. So there are several different authoring packs that you can purchase, and a lot of the changes have to do with either publishing or the ability to share your information and your content in some pretty cool and interesting ways. Can't go through all of them now, but as you kind of tier up through the levels, you get a lot of freedom with how you can distribute your content, and we continue to make it easier as you go up.
Sounds great. Okay, for you guys in the chat room, thanks for being there, and for those watching the Vimeo video later on, please subscribe, give us feedback. We'll have information on how to get a hold of Chris and links to Zebra Zapps. So everyone, have a great one. Enjoy ICE for all of you guys going there. I know a lot of you are. And we'll see you next week. Next week we have Will Thalheimer. He's going to be joining us.
I'm sad to miss it, but I'll watch the recording. Say hello for me.
We will. Will's a good guy.
Absolutely. Right, thanks, Don. Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.